she's been sowing the seeds of her own downfall one interview at a time. And when Snow White flopped, people didn't just see a movie fail, they saw Rachel Zegler's unchecked attitude.
You mentioned earlier that people need a little more kindness in their lives. But honestly, I can't recall a time when you seemed this frustrated or fed up, which already sets the tone for how chaotic things have become. The live-action Snow White remake, which was supposed to be one of Disney's biggest modern fairy tale revivals, is now drowning in a storm of drama, backlash, and non-stop controversy. The situation has escalated so much that the movie's two leading actresses Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot appear to be locked in a quiet but very real conflict with each other. At this point, it almost feels like Zegler should step back entirely, because everything surrounding this film is spiraling out of control, and each new issue only adds more fuel to the already blazing fire. Disney finally released the Snow White trailer, and while it exploded online with more than 120 million views in a very short time, the excitement didn't last long. Instead of focusing on the positive reception, Zegler immediately made the moment about herself by tweeting, "Thank you for all the love and always remember Free Palestine." Supporting a cause is completely valid, but the problem was the timing, the context, and the lack of awareness. She was promoting a Disney family movie, standing beside an Israeli co-star, and decided to post a politically charged message right in the middle of a highly sensitive global conflict. The whole thing came across less like heartfelt activism and more like an attempt to appear bold, relevant, and aligned with social media activism culture. But the internet isn't easily fooled, and the move backfired in a massive way. The Israel-Palestine conflict is one of the most emotional and painful issues in the world, affecting millions of lives on both sides. Palestinians are facing unimaginable suffering, heartbreak, and destruction, while Israelis are also experiencing traumatic losses and deep fear. Emotions are raw, global tension is high, and Zegler's decision to inject a provocative political statement into a movie promotion while Gal Gadot, an actual Israeli who served in the military, quietly stayed out of the drama, felt incredibly tone-deaf, insensitive, and unprofessional. It painted Zegler in a negative light, making her seem disconnected from the seriousness of the situation and more focused on impressing social media activists than showing respect to the gravity of the issue. Meanwhile, Gadot handled everything with calm and maturity. Instead of responding aggressively or publicly calling Zegler out, she took the high road by posting a Martin Luther King Jr. quote, "Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." She followed it with her own heartfelt message, "Only love can save the world." It was a classy way to respond without adding more fuel to the drama. However, things quickly intensified when Gadot's X account briefly reposted a tweet criticizing Zegler, saying something along the lines of, "Trying to campaign on the head of your co-star, who actually lives through war just so you look cooler with the kids, is really pathetic." The repost was deleted almost immediately, but this is the internet. Screenshots were taken within seconds, and once something spreads, it's impossible to put it back in the bottle. And honestly, the tweet wasn't wrong. Still, Zegler wasn't going to let that slide, and she prepared her own responses, making it clear that the feud wasn't going to disappear quietly. The truth is, this isn't the first time Zegler has stirred up negative attention. Before all of this, she openly criticized the original 1937 Snow White film, the very movie she's supposed to be honoring in her remake. She called the old story weird, mocked the classic romance, and even labeled Prince Charming a stalker for kissing Snow White while she was unconscious. She proudly declared in interviews, "We didn't do that this time," as if distancing herself from the classic Disney legacy was something to celebrate. She also repeatedly emphasized that her version of Snow White isn't dreaming about true love at all because she's far too busy branding herself as some kind of unstoppable boss girl figure or hyper-modern feminist. Trailblazer, at least that's what she seems to be aiming for, but honestly, we all get it, the world has evolved. Storytelling has evolved, audiences have evolved, and yes, female characters today are written with more agency and independence. But did she really have to throw the original Snow White under the bus just to prove her point? Instead of honoring the legacy of a film that shaped Disney history, she acted as if the classic was some embarrassing relic that needed to be mocked. And that's just one piece of the chaos. Let's not forget the entire dwarf drama, where Disney, trying desperately to avoid controversy, scrapped the iconic Seven Dwarfs and replaced them with a random mix of magical creatures whose designs looked nothing like the characters fans have adored for nearly a century. Sure, Disney framed it as inclusivity, but instead of being celebrated, the choice backfired hard. Longtime fans, nostalgic audiences, and even casual moviegoers felt betrayed because they simply wanted a respectful, faithful adaptation instead of a reimagined version that hardly resembled the original story at all. When you add that to Zegler's earlier comments calling the remake PC Snow White again, her own words, you're left with a project that feels less like a celebration of a beloved fairy tale and more like a clumsy attempt to lecture audiences about modern values they never asked for in the first place. For a movie meant to be magical, heartwarming, and enchanting, it has somehow managed to alienate nearly everyone before it has even premiered. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot is dealing with her own layer of controversy, though hers is rooted in politics far more real and personal. As an Israeli actress, she has faced intense criticism for her public support of Israel, especially surrounding the recent violent attacks and increasing tension in the region. She even hosted a screening of a documentary highlighting the tragedy, which ignited even more online anger and accusations. Some people are now calling for a full boycott of Snow White solely because she appears in it seriously, an entire boycott over one actress's nationality? That's how ridiculous the internet can get. This puts Disney in the worst position imaginable, stuck between two actresses at the center of political firestorms from completely opposite directions. The studio is trying to market a $300 million blockbuster. Yet every headline connected to the movie has nothing to do with the film itself and everything to do with political disputes, social media arguments, and personal beliefs. Disney has stayed publicly silent on the growing feud, but you know for a fact they're sweating bullets behind the scenes. Branding experts are already warning that this avalanche of drama could destroy the movie's box office numbers before a single ticket is sold. And honestly, after watching how everything has unfolded, who can even blame them? From questionable casting decisions to politically charged comments to tone-deaf interviews, every aspect of this film has been overshadowed by controversy. And Rachel, seriously, maybe take a breath and reevaluate. Wanting to appear progressive and socially conscious is fine, and wanting to connect with younger audiences is understandable. But there's a difference between thoughtful activism and reckless attention-seeking. You're not a revolutionary freedom fighter, you're not a political spokesperson, and you're not the voice of world justice, you're an actress starring in a Disney fairy tale remake. Using your platform responsibly doesn't mean turning a promotional tour into a political battlefield. Nor does it mean throwing shade at your co-star or making the film's spotlight revolve entirely around your personal opinions. That's not noble, it's not brave, it's pure clout chasing. And honestly, it's becoming painfully obvious. And then came her infamous quote, "It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White who is not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love." The way she said it so proudly, as if the original film was something shameful, rubbed generations of fans the wrong way. Instead of respectfully updating the character, she made it sound as if she despised the source material entirely. And while Gal Gadot is battling global political backlash, she's still managed to handle herself far more professionally than Zegler. Gadot's challenges remind us just how complicated and emotionally charged these issues are. Yet at least she knows how to stay focused on the work, maintain dignity, and avoid inflaming an already volatile situation. In contrast, Zegler seems determined to insert herself into every controversy, whether it benefits the film or not, and that is exactly why this entire movie's reputation is spiraling downhill long before anyone even gets to watch it. Gal Gadot continues to keep her focus on the bigger picture instead of making an already volatile situation worse, which is something Rachel Zegler could learn from, especially considering how her attempts to gain cheap online popularity only added fuel to an already blazing fire. But before we dive into where the Israel-Palestine war currently stands during the moment Zegler tried to insert herself into the conversation for attention, make sure you subscribe to our channel, because we bring you the deepest, rawest secrets from Hollywood. And if you hit the bell icon, you'll always stay updated. Now, returning to the reality on the ground. The Palestinian death toll continues to mount at an alarming pace. At least 31 people were killed in the past 24 hours alone. as Israeli military forces continue targeting densely populated civilian areas, resulting in catastrophic casualties. Since October 2023, nearly 1.9 million residents of Gaza have been displaced, creating one of the most severe humanitarian crises in modern history. Human Rights Watch and countless other organizations have raised grave concerns about the legality and morality of the mass evacuation orders, pointing out that evacuation warnings are often insufficient, that disabled individuals, the elderly, and children cannot physically reach safer zones, and that many so-called safe zones have been bombed anyway, leaving families with nowhere to run. Access to food, clean water, electricity, and fuel has been brutally restricted, while reports show widespread destruction of homes, schools, refugee shelters, ambulances, and even hospitals. The world is watching every development with increasing scrutiny, demanding accountability and calling for meaningful protections for civilians trapped in these devastated regions. And amidst all of this indescribable suffering, Rachel Zegler has managed to bury herself deeper and deeper in controversy, seemingly unaware of the gravity of the situation or the impact of her actions. Fans, fed up with her constant missteps, have instead rallied behind Gal Gadot, whose calm, composed demeanor stands in stark contrast to Zegler's chaotic public persona. Disney's newly released special look for Snow White has only intensified the backlash, with the trailer earning a brutal dislike-to-like ratio of nearly 6-to-1 on YouTube. And honestly, it's not hard to understand why fans are overwhelmingly siding with Gadot as the evil queen, flooding social media with comments like, "Let the evil queen win. Gal Gadot is the true star of this movie, and please let her be the main character instead." The wild part is that Gadot isn't even in the new clip, yet viewers are already declaring her the one who deserves the spotlight. Even more shocking, countless fans have openly stated they refuse to watch the movie because of Zegler's involvement, calling her the most toxic part of the production and praising Gadot as the real fairest of them all. Disney's carefully polished promotional material can't hide the truth anymore. The public is fed up. Zegler's public persona has ballooned into a massive distraction that overshadows everything the studio is trying to accomplish. And at this point, it looks like her own behavior might end up being the film's greatest downfall. Snow White was supposed to be a feel-good, nostalgic fairy tale reboot, but instead it has transformed into a full-blown political minefield. With months still left before the movie releases, it's becoming harder and harder to imagine audiences paying attention to the actual story when the off-screen drama is louder, bigger, and far more explosive than anything happening on screen. For Zegler, this could very well be the turning point, the moment that marks the beginning of the end for her once promising career as a rising Hollywood star. For Gadot, this entire ordeal is simply another challenge added to an already complex and controversial public journey. But she continues to handle everything with far more professionalism and class than her co-star. And for Disney? While they're likely praying behind closed doors that this nightmare somehow delivers even a fraction of its expected box office return, or at the very least doesn't completely crash and burn. As always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.